Since I was a kid living in Madrid, I've been actively involved in exploring alternative ways to experience the city. As a young skateboarder and graffiti artist, I learned that the urban environment could be experienced beyond the limitations of its intended purpose. The entire city became a playground, an environment to be colonized through a creative process. But this particular way of being and acting in public space was not usually welcomed by the authorities. At a very young age, I would often experience what it feels like to be excluded from public space. Today, these urban experiences have a direct influence in the type of work I do as an architect. Through my design office, I create projects that challenge the conventions of public space and create opportunities for debate, reflection, and interaction with the city. The mechanisms of control are a common feature in any urban setting. We have become so used to this idea that we no longer think about the implications. We are being watched, and we no longer care. These were the premises for a project that I created last year for a light art festival here in Brooklyn. When looking for a location to work with, I bumped into this abandoned water tower, which has a very strong presence in the area. I like to think of the water tower as a silent witness of the public life of residents. It had been observing through the years the slow transformation of the neighborhood. I wanted to transmit this feeling, make people aware of the fact that we're constantly being watched. So I put my hands on a projector and I went to perform what would be the first of a series of experiments with light in public space. A giant eyeball was projected over the lower surface of the tower. As the eye followed the movements of passers-by, people would engage in a direct confrontation with the tower. One could actually feel the pressure of being watched. It was very exciting to learn that just by adding a layer of light, an urban structure of this scale could be radically transformed. There was something very special about its fragile state of decay, becoming alive, gaining a human-like quality. And most importantly, the interaction between people and the tower changed dramatically. Public spaces are often designed in a way that determine how we interact with others. When you add extreme weather conditions to the equation, the situation only gets worse. This is the case for a large public space in front of the most iconic church in Iceland. Apart from tourists that come here during the summertime to take pictures, the site remains an inactive space of transition with very little community life. I wanted to challenge this condition, and I thought of a way in which I could temporarily activate the space. So, working with the unique architectural features of the church and inspired by the natural conditions of Iceland, I designed a light installation that would transform the entire facade of the building. For its production, I gathered a multidisciplinary team of architects, designers, artists, and musicians to collaborate with me in its production, who came to share their particular tools and expertise. The project was performed during 4 days, which I would spend in the back of this truck controlling the video projections and safe from the weather. Despite very harsh weather conditions, people gathered in the street in massive numbers. What was an inactive public space became a vibrant community place. People were able to relate to each other and experience their everyday urban environment with a new perspective. Perhaps they were made aware of the possibilities for interaction that the city has yet to offer. The city is constantly telling us what to do, what to think, and how to act. Using very explicit visual language, a multiplicity of billboards, signs, screens, statements invade our public spaces in order to tell us something. Your text here is a project that challenges this condition. Citizens are given the opportunity to change their role as receivers of information in order to become the authors. The way it works is very simple. You submit an anonymous text message to your mobile phone, and in turn, it gets projected at large scale onto the facade of a building. I wanted to test this project into the facade of a library at the institution where I was a research student at the time. But after 9 months of negotiations, the institution finally rejected my proposal. They concluded that the idea of giving voice to the community using their main building on campus could be harmful for the institution. As an alternative, I was given the opportunity to perform the project on a different building, one which has less visibility and has a less symbolic character on campus. But there was one condition. I would have to make sure that no message containing offensive, discriminatory, sexual, or commercial content was displayed. I really wanted to test my project, and after 9 months of discussions, I said, yes, I will do it. But instead of simply removing the critical content, as I was told, I decided to simply black out the words that fell into that category, making people aware of the conflicts affecting this particular space. The project had clearly failed, but in the process it had revealed the mechanisms of control affecting this particular space. So I decided it was time to take action. So I traced a plan in which I would strategically locate myself in a building nearby where I had a clear view of my target. Geared with one projector and a laptop and challenging the policies of the school, I went on to project light onto the facade of the library. What is public space? I don't know the answer to this question, but this project had clearly failed as such, as a public space. With this action, I wanted to reclaim a right to use the city, to challenge the limitations imposed over public space, and just for a moment of time, activate the space. Very recently, I had the opportunity to test this project in a very different context. It was performed as part of a large public art festival in Midtown Detroit, where the facade of a large building was transformed into a giant display board that reflected the variety of voices existent in the area. The festival attracted thousands of visitors who actively interacted with the building. They were able to submit their anonymous text messages with total freedom of speech, engaging in a dynamic dialogue with the city. People gather in the street as a community in order to share their feelings, identities, secrets and criticism, wisdom, support, personal stories, advice, and frustrations. More than 1,000 text messages were submitted. Each of them was projected for a period of time. The space became an arena for debate, a catalyst for social interaction. For a moment, I had a glimpse of what public space could be. Public space is not something that is given or inherited, but it must be fought for and defended constantly. We must take the lead to find opportunities to identify problematic urban conditions and transform them into new opportunities that we all can share. Thank you very much.